Hey, how's it going, everyone? I'm Nathan from mastersofmusic.com. So I picked up a Pod Express a while back. Thought I'd put together this quick review. Mostly, I'm just going to show how everything works, but there's a few sound examples. There's a clean sample around the 4-minute mark and a high gain sample around the 7-minute mark to close out the video. So let's get started here. You've got the 2-foot switches. You've got 4 different effect types, 4 different options for each effect type. There are 7 different amp models, and each has a cab, and you can switch between the cabs as well. You got the master volume over here on the side. It also works with AA batteries, so you can use it without a power supply if you want. The plastic casing does feel pretty cheap. That's probably my biggest complaint about it, but I mean, it is only $179. Right here, you got your input and your outputs. It does support foot switches as well. You can support 2 other foot switches or a volume pedal and a foot switch. It's got USB-C port for connecting to a computer. You can record direct, and it'll even record DI, so you can use it for reamping. So it's got some cool features. As you may have noticed, there is no power button. It turns on and off when you plug something into the input jack when you have batteries installed. Otherwise, it turns on and off when you plug in the power supply. So let's talk about how the effects work. As you can see, each effect has 4 different types, and then the LED indicates the intensity, how far you have it turned up, and then each effect has a different color for the LED ring as well, so you can indicate which one you're working with. And the foot switches can be used to turn off these individual effects or all the effects. So the pedal basically works in 2 different modes. There's like an editing mode and a preset mode. So now we're in preset mode when you hit both buttons at the same time, and then once you adjust the dials, nothing happens when you're in preset mode. So you can either go through the presets by spinning the wheel or using the foot switches to cycle through the presets. There are 21 total, so there's 3 banks for each color type here. Then you can tap both foot switches to go back to editing mode. You can use this wheel right here to cycle between the different amp types. You can also turn the amp off if you just wanted to use effects only with the real amp. So here's the list of amp types from the manual. The top is the guitar version. You've got a couple of Line 6 models. You got a PV5150, a Fender Princeton Reverb. So you've got everything from clean to mid gain to high gain. So got some good options there. Then when you want to adjust the parameters of the amp, you hold the Alt button. So each of these knobs, as you can see, has a label below it for gain, mid, bass, and treble. So that's how you adjust the amp parameters. You got to hold the Alt button. I wish they had a toggle for it because holding it's kind of annoying, but it's the only thing I can complain about really. And there's some secondary options as well if you hold the tap button as well. So you can adjust the cabs by adjusting the amp model here. You can adjust the amp master volume. You can adjust presence over here, and then the top 2 dials work for the noise gate. So neither of those are listed, but you can find that in the manual. Here's the cab types that are included, so you can switch between cabs with the different amp models. You can also turn the cab modeling off if you wanted to use it with an amp or a power amp or something like that. I kind of like the Bogner amp. I'm a big fan of the Mesa ones, but the Bogner's a little bit clearer. I've been switching to that one. So there's also a tuner on board as well. You hold the tuner button. It doesn't tell you what note you're playing, of course, but it'll tell you when your string is in tune. So it's pretty easy to dial in a tone. Just get an amp, start messing with the effects types. Dial in the gain to preference. Pretty easy to adjust. Most of the parameters one-handed if you're playing guitar at the same time, except for when you have to hold the tap button as well. It's kind of a 2-handed job when you're doing that. But yeah, I mean, it is pretty easy to work with, get some decent tones. So this is just recording with the iPad's camera, so it doesn't sound great, but there's a direct recording coming up. You can use the tap button to adjust the timing with delays and stuff, so all the effects are going to be using the same timing. You can't have different for the modulation and delay, so it's one limitation with this. But it is really easy to just adjust effects and sounds on the fly, so it's kind of a nice device if you're just looking for something quick and easy. So like I said, sound quality is not great right here, but I've got a direct recording right here. I recorded directly into an interface using a clean amp, a little bit of delay, a little bit of reverb. So this is what that sounds like. So, I mean, you can get some surprisingly decent tones out of this unit. I guess it's based on the HX model. So, I mean, it doesn't have everything that the HX has, obviously, but it does have some, some of the effects, some of the amp types from that. So then if you wanted to save a preset, you just hold the amp button here, then it'll start blinking, cycle through your different presets. You can select a spot to put it in and just hit the save button again. And then it is a part of your preset list. Like I said, there are 21 slots. There are 3 different banks for 3 different colors. The first 1 through 7, the white colors, are the do have some factory presets. The rest of them are blank. So you can just sort of set that up exactly how you want. Then you can go back and sort of tweak the sound again if you want and save a different preset based on that. So it's all pretty easy to navigate, pretty easy to use. The amp models are pretty good. You can't use third-party IRs into this, so you're just stuck with the cabs that it comes loaded with. But they do sound pretty decent. I do like that Bogner cab, like I said, but it's just sort of going to depend on your personal preference. The effects types are kind of limited, but I mean, they're definitely usable here. So you got your different reverbs, your different delays, some different distortions and modulation effects. So here's the list of those from the manual. So you have some different boosts. I like the Ibanez Tube Screamer for a high gain. Put that in front of the 5150 with the Bogner cab, but you do have some different options as far as the effects goes. You can use it just for effects if you want. You can turn off the amp modeling and the cab modeling if you wanted to use it just for effects. There's a looper built in as well if you turn the delay all the way to the right. I did not get around to showing that in this video, but you do have the option to use a looper on this device as well. Here's also a look at the signal path. So you do have a noise gate you can adjust as well. Like I said, you can use 2 different foot switches as well, or a expression pedal, but obviously it doesn't have a wah or anything, but you can use it as a volume pedal. So that's kind of an idea how that all lays out. So, I mean, it is a nice unit for the price. It's obviously not as nice as like the HX models and stuff like that, where you have a million different options. But I mean, for 180 bucks, it is pretty nice unit for the price. So here's a quick demo I threw together using the Pod Express, using the PV5150 and the Bogner cab. Recorded directly into an interface, into a DAW, and just sort of mixed quickly.